Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
It's good to be with you, and hi Zoom folk, and it's good to be with you also. I'm really excited. I got to see some people I haven't seen in years. I haven't been to San Francisco in about 7 years, and I get to see some people I've never met in person before, just have practiced with on Zoom, so it's a delight. And an honor to be asked to share with you today some reflections, some Dharma reflections. When Jeff read my bio, the last bit said I've spent the last few years practicing or investigating what it means to live with an undefended heart. And that's what I want to talk about this morning. What does it mean to live with an undefended heart, and do we even want to right now? Because it's kind of, I heard this phrase the other day, cuckoo banana pants, and I think it's kind of cuckoo banana pants right now. So do we want to even, even investigate or even think about that? So that's what I want to talk about this morning, because I think it's really important to look at. I heard the phrase living with an undefended heart many years ago. I didn't come up with it, and I was at a New Year's Eve intention setting. It must be 14, 15 years ago, and it just came up as my intention to spend that year living with an undefended heart. And a couple of months later, or a while later, somebody came up to me and asked if I would do a Dharma talk on that topic, and I went, okay. And so I really had to dive into it. It wasn't just a cute thing I said. I was like, okay, what do I actually mean by that? And when I gave the talk, I realized it's not just a Dharma talk. It's actually a way to be in the world, and one that I think really points to what the Buddha was talking about, this letting go of everything that gets in the way of reality. Because that's really what he's talking about when we let go of clinging. I went on a retreat a few years ago, and the one thing that I came out with is to cling is to suffer. And if we just let go of all those things, we're totally open to this experience. And so what does that mean? How does it work? And if we're going to live with an undefended heart, first thing is like, why do I have? What is defended about it? And why would I defend it? And this stuff happens. We have built, or my experience, and in talking to a lot of people, we have armor. And we've built it up because we've been hurt. And it's not a conscious thing. Sometimes it's conscious. Sometimes we say, I'm never going to do that again. Do y'all remember the old Simon and Garfunkel song, I Am a Rock? Yeah, it's like he was very explicit. I've been hurt, and it's never going to happen again. And I'm going to be an island and build these walls, and you're never going to get in. So sometimes it's very explicit, but a lot of times it's implicit. It just happens because this, if I learned early on in my life that if I said things that other people didn't like, it didn't end well. So I learned to keep my mouth shut. It wasn't intentional. It's like Pavlovian. Oh, if this happens, that happens, so I'm not going to do that anymore. Excuse me. And so we've all been hurt. Every single one of us has been hurt. Sometimes multiple times. All of us multiple times. I mean, it's not like, oh, I got hurt once. No, we all got hurt a lot. And we've been hurt by our families, we've been hurt by society, we've been hurt by all kinds of things. People find it very easy to hurt other people. Don't get me talking about the dehumanization, but that's so rampant in our world and has been for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I mentioned in my bio that I have a degree in archaeology, and I still do I don't dig anymore, but I still work in that realm sometimes. And so you see history, and this has been going on for so long. We're hurt because of what we look like, because of where we come from, because of the language we speak, because of who we love. All the things, multiple things. And so we build up armor. We build up ways to take care of ourselves, which makes perfect sense. And we have these biases that say, this is okay, this is not okay. If I need to be safe, it has to look like this. And as I say, oftentimes it's not explicit, it's unconscious. And there's a book called Deep Diversity by Shakil Chaudhuri, and he says, emotions exist at a covert and overt level. When we get angry, happy, sad, etc., the emotion has to break our personal threshold before we become aware of experiencing it. They are unconscious before the threshold is reached. And without full awareness, emotions influence our behavior, thoughts, and choices. So like me saying, oh, doesn't work out if I say things that you may not like, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. And that, I developed that early, but it carried decades. And I kept my mouth shut when I should have said things. I'd be afraid to answer questions in class, even if I knew the answer, because what would happen? There was this underlying level of fear that I didn't know was there, but was running the show. And this armoring, so we understand why it's there. How does it show up? That's also helpful if we want to chip away at it. How does it show up? It shows up in so many ways. Me keeping my mouth shut. That was a way. If on the fight, flight, or freeze scale, I'm a fleer and a hider. If I could live in a closet, like with a bag over my head, I think everything would be fine. Of course it wouldn't, but sometimes I just want to run away. That's my underlying thing. I don't know that it's fear driving me, but it is when you stop and you look at it. So there's these defenses show up in so many ways. How we see the world, fixed views, how we see ourselves. You know, I am this, I am that, I need this, I don't need that, I want this, I don't want that, you have to do this, they have to do that. We create this world view that we need to have happen. This is where the Buddha touches on. We have this craving. I want it to be this way. Or aversion. I don't want it to be that way. Or just delusion. La, 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 la. Everything's fine. I have a friend who says when she grew up in her family, everything was always fine. And you could tell how bad things were by how high the octave was. Everything's fine. You know, it's really bad. But that's how it works. So we have the anger, the grasping, the wanting, the not wanting, the fear, judgment, denial. All these things are ways we armor ourselves. Jack Kornfield talks about demons on the path in his book, A Path with Heart. Those are the things that have kind of taken over. Brene Brown, who you probably have heard of, she wrote a book years ago. She's written many books, but I think it was in Daring Greatly. She talked about how we armor ourselves. And she talked about one thing called foreboding joy, which I can really relate to. It's not allowing ourselves to feel happiness because we know it's going to end sometime and not wanting to deal with it. Years ago when my husband and I were engaged, and it crossed my mind that, he's going to die one day, and I don't think I want to have to deal with that. I mean, we got married and still married these many years later, but those are the kinds of things. Oh, if I do this, then, if then, what if only, all these things that kind of come up and play in our minds, they're armoring. Perfectionism. Anybody? A couple people don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, because if we're perfect, nothing can hurt us. But we always fail at perfectionism, so it's this constant failure. How debilitating and demoralizing to need something so badly and to never be able to get there. And that's that craving. Buddha talks about it, second noble truth. You know, there is suffering in this world, first noble truth. There's birth, there's death, there's sickness, there's old age, there's being separated from things, impermanence. But our suffering is the second noble truth, wanting things to be different from the way they are. That's perfectionism too. That's all this armoring, not being able to be present. And then the final one she talks about is numbing, distraction. We can numb ourselves in so many ways. Foods and drugs and alcohol and sex and work and shopping and gambling, you know, blah, blah, blah. The litany of things that take us out of ourselves. I remember, it was in the 90s, and I remember I sat there and I think I played solitaire on the computer for like 8 hours. And it even broke through my barriers, and I went, oh, what's going on here? But it doesn't have to be huge and grandiose. It can be simple. The armoring can be playing on the computer or falling into social media rabbit holes. You know, taking ourselves somewhere else. That's a way to distance ourselves from reality. And defenses, I found very clearly that these defenses have often kept us from what I most cherish, which is connection. Because if I have armor, I can't really be true or authentic or vulnerable. Vulnerable is one of the most scary words I have found in my vocabulary sometimes. It's like, oh, what will they think? What will they say? But armor keeps us in, and it keeps you out. Keeps us in and them out. And it's the delusion in the mind that makes us think we need armor, because we don't. It's the invitation to let that all go, let it all be. So this conditioned heart, this defended heart, is a denial of reality. It's the second noble truth. So how do we begin this journey to an undefended heart? It really started for me in full force with my formal sitting practice somewhere 20-something years ago. I'd been meditating here and there for years and doing this and that, but when I finally got into really sitting and coming to class every week and listening to a teacher, and that stuff started to show up. And for me, when I was a kid, my father died when I was 5. And there was nothing said about it. It was just like, your father's dead, he's not coming home anymore, and we go about our business. And so my whole world was upside down. Everything was different, but there was no place to go with it, so it was all internalized. Things changed dramatically, but I had nothing, and then I couldn't say anything, so I had these double things, and so everything was, for me, everything was always fine. It was always great, no problem, everything's good. My mother also suffered from serious mental illness, and it was just me and her living together. I'm the kind of person who's very dismissive. It's like, no big deal. No big deal. But all these things, what I did is I stuffed them down. The emotions, the feelings, the things, until I got to the Krishna. And this is, as Jack Kornfield says, meditation opens the door to all those accumulated emotions that were too dangerous to feel. I kind of paraphrase him. He talked about rage that he wasn't able to feel as a child because of his situation. But all those things that we weren't able to feel throughout our lives, here they come. And for the first time, we're asked to say hi, to open to them. If we're serious about practice, if we're serious about turning towards what's right here, right now. It's incredibly important to be present with what's here. And that is one of my favorite definitions of equanimity. It's a deep intimacy with this moment without preference. A deep intimacy with this moment without preference. It's incredibly powerful, and it's really scary. When I had finally come to the place of thinking I want to live with an undefended heart, I'm the person who goes, if I think that way, everybody thinks that way. And of course, that's not true. And I said living with an undefended heart in a class once, and somebody raised their hand and said, that thought terrifies me. And I think when you think about it, it can be very scary. What does that mean? But it's really important. And Pema Chodron says, protecting ourselves from suffering, armoring ourselves, does not mean we're being kind to ourselves. The truth is we become more fearful and more alienated. Why? Because we have armor. I remember the first time I was diagnosed with the human condition, I was horrified. Because that's a scary thing. I don't want to have that. I want to be perfect. I want it to be okay all the time. I want it to feel good all the time, but that's not how this works. So if we're constantly running from the 8 worldly winds, pleasure, pain, gain, loss, all those things, then it's going to be incredibly, hard. And that's when it got really hard for me. It was right before I finally started sitting, and it was like, okay, I got to really do this. I can either turn towards this or I can run the other way. And I said it was time to really turn towards. And that grief came up that I didn't know was there from my childhood, from my dad, and all the other experiences, and all the other things. Oh, and the interesting piece, and I'm sure many of you or most of you have experienced this, those feelings that we've kept tamped down, that finally when we experience them and we greet them with friendliness, it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. In fact, there's a kindness, a gentleness we bring when we're not judging or thinking we're not supposed to feel this way. Or why I should be better than this, blah, blah, blah. Or whatever thing we think. And so for me, this is where the practice and the teachings come in, and they're so important. When all these old stories about who I am have been torn away, or who we are, this defenses we've built up, this self-view, Sakaya Ditti, I love that Pali term, self-view. We chip away at that, oh, I am this, I am that, in our minds, and go, no, this is who I really am. This is who I am. When I open up and I feel the sadness, when I let it in, when I feel the loss, when I feel the joy. Because it's not just 10,000 sorrows, it's 10,000 joys as well. And so we rest on the teachings, the Eightfold Path, this path to liberation. Because when we start living with an undefended heart, there's a tremendous amount of freedom there. We're no longer constrained by the shoulds and the have-tos and the if-onlys and the what-ifs. There's the, oh, right now it's like this. That's a tattoo I have on my arm that I got there a long time ago. Right now it's like this. And not in a judgy way, but in a like, oh, this is what's real. How can I be with it? How can I turn towards it? That's the practice. And the Eightfold Path I've always found, think of as a net that they have under trapeze artists, so if they fall, they land in the net. It's always there. Oh, what do I do right now? Oh, wise speech. I talked about not being able to talk, always keeping my mouth shut, which sometimes you have to say things. Wise speech. Oh, how does that help? Oh, it's not just saying things that are true, it's saying things that need to be said. So that has been a real safety net for me, and a way to move through the world. It's like, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say this. Oh, I have to say what needs to be said. And tend to that terror that's inside. Instead of trying to push it down, not supposed to feel this, no, run away, hide in a closet, move to the Bronx. Whatever, that's one of my fantasies. I'm going to hide in the Bronx and you'll never find me. Anyway, I'm from New York, I should explain that. So, I'm sorry. But that's what it is. It's like tamp it down, tamp it down, tamp it down. And it's like, no, Open it up, let it be there. High. We can breathe again. There's a softness that's allowed, but wise speech. Oh, say what needs to be said. You know, the precepts, non-harming, not just not taking a life, but cultivating compassion and kindness, not just non-harming, but being generous and kind. Not just not taking something that's not offered, but cultivating generosity. It's not just don't do these things, but do this instead. This wise intention. Oh, letting go of what doesn't serve, renunciation. Oh, being quiet, being small, hiding in the corner doesn't serve. I'm going to let go of that and do this instead. That's how you start chipping away at that armor. That armor that I thought was keeping me safe, but was keeping me so isolated. Even though I'm a great schmoozer, that was armor too. I could know 1 million people, but none of you would know me. That's armor. And a lonely place to be. So chipping away, letting the teachings, letting the Eightfold Path, letting the Four Noble Truths hold you. It's a way, as the Buddha said, it's a path to liberation, to freedom. Mindfulness practice, satipatthana, the direct path to realization, to freedom. You know, it's really important. And to be the kindness, the friendliness, that's also part of the Eightfold Path in wise intention. We greet the world with friendliness, compassion, including ourselves. That's a key point. It's not just everybody else. I love that line in the Metta Sutta where it says, omitting none. We're included in none. It's not just y'all, it's us all too. So when I talk about this, I often get the question, isn't it okay to have a defended heart at some times? I mean, there's a time and a place for it, but I think we need to make the distinction between defenses, which is a type of aversion, and boundaries. It doesn't mean not having boundaries. Boundaries are wise, boundaries are skillful. Pema Chodron also talks about this, and when she talks about idiot compassion, have you ever heard the term idiot compassion? Where you're just kind of letting people run over you, thinking that's the Buddhist way. I'm supposed to be kind, and it's like, no. And she, I mean, no, you come to be kind, but you draw boundaries and say, no, you can't do that. It's not okay, because Buddhism is also about accountability, taking responsibility for actions. Absolutely. It's like, I'm not going to hate you, but you can't be here. You can't do that. That's not okay. And part of this practice of you know, for me at least, in the first precept or in wise action in the Eightfold Path is not harming, but working to end harm where it's being caused. That's part of it. It's an invitation to end injustice where I see it. So there's an activism, there's an activist piece in this teaching that I really believe. And so we come to today, and is living with an undefended heart a wise thing to do in this moment? And I think it is, because I don't think it's ever not a good idea to not have an undefended heart. I think it's always, I don't know if there were too many negatives in that sentence, but I think it's always a good idea to have an undefended heart, regardless of what's going on outside. And I think it's actually paramount to have that undefended heart, to be willing to be present for what's happening right here, right now. It's so important. Absolutely important, even though the idea sometimes makes your head spin and it seems really frightening. But we have to let go of everything that gets in the way of intimacy with the present moment. And the present moment is really scary. And when we You know, how do we show up? And we start where we are. That's all we can do. We start where we are. You know, there's all there's normal responses to what's going on. There's fear, there's anger, there's rage, there's all the things. I live in LA. It's been pretty awful. I feel like we're under siege, and we have been under siege. The Latin community has been under siege. The immigrant community has been under siege. It's not just people from Latin or South America. It's if you're brown, let me put it that way. The brown people are under siege in Los Angeles, and it's terrifying. And it's very easy to get angry and fight back in a way, or shut down or hide. And we have to recognize that we have to take care of ourselves, but also hold ourselves with gentleness and kindness. And the invitation is always to stay open, always to stay present, and to be with. Sati, the word that's usually translated as mindfulness, means also to be with. How can we be with this moment? And when a heart is really undefended, we don't need anything to be different from the way it is. That doesn't mean we accept it or acquiesce, but we say, okay, right now, this is the way it is. I'm not going to jump up and down screaming, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Because that doesn't do anything except get me all agitated. I did something to my leg and I'm limping and it's weird, and I spend half the meditation going, right now it's like this. Because if I'm, you know, but this is the way it is. This is the way it is. I tell this story because it's so profound. When I was a teenager, I was a mother's helper, and I took care of, like a nanny. And there was a girl, she was 8, and she wanted a salami sandwich. And I said, there's no salami. And so she had the tantrum that threw herself on the floor, banging, screaming, kicking, yelling, I want a salami sandwich. And I just stood there going, there's no salami. So you can, that's the reaction, but it's like, but this is the way it is. And what can we do? What's the answer to this in this moment? How do we turn towards what's happening right here, right now? That's the important thing. We can be open and we can take care of ourselves. No one wins a fist fight with reality. No one wins a fist fight with, so how can I turn towards it? And I think also it's really important to talk about this moving towards an undefended heart, that we don't just say, okay, I'm going to do it and then get it. It takes a while. And sometimes it's in pieces. Like I had, you know, the wise speech part of saying things that need to be said. I have been working on that for a long time. A long time. And that is one of my core things, because that got instilled at a very young age. And it's deeply embedded. And so it's something that I struggle with, but I'm willing to show up. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. But the intention is to move towards being more skillful in how I show up in that way. Other things are like, oh, I can open to the greeting the grief, greeting the sadness. I'm much more comfortable these days. There's no denial of that. Or the other emotions like anger. It used to take me days to realize I was angry. And now it's like, oh, hi, anger. Here you are. Recognizing, this is why practice is so important, because when we sit, we begin to recognize the responses in our bodies. Oh, there's anger. There's fear. There's you know, that feeling of inadequacy. One more time. That's in the belly. Okay. All the emotions, all the feelings that are so familiar, recognizing them, and instead of pushing them away, saying, hi. Hi. Have a seat. I have a couch right here, and I invite them to have a seat. The thing about recognizing what these things, what's present, is that they no longer control us. And right now, it's really important to recognize that, and that all emotions belong. Everything's going to show up. Anger is going to show up. Of course, rage is going to show up. But to acknowledge it and not let it run the show, that's the difference. When we're not open, when we have those defenses, we're going to try and get rid of them in some way, armor ourselves, and they're going to be running the show if we're not paying attention. So if we can recognize them and say, hi, have a seat, I see you, I understand why you're here. Of course, it makes sense to be angry, or it makes sense for this. Thich Nhat Hanh talked about seeds of consciousness that are planted throughout our lives. It's like our conditioning. And when the conditions are right, these seeds blossom. And it's like, I can't help it. It's here. I can be, so to acknowledge it and let it be, that's the difference. It's really important. And to be able to be present with those emotions and those feelings, and to be kind and compassionate and stay open. And so it's a long journey to an undefended heart. It also took me some therapy. I'm not saying it was just the cushion, but I had to do some therapy too once I started noticing, oh, this is some stuff that I need some help to unpack. But it was because of this, and I can sit now and have had so many little awakenings, aha moments on the cushion and on retreat, because I've been willing to say, I'm willing to turn towards, not away. But it's not an 8-week course. It's a lifetime. My latest tattoo is, I'm not dead, so I'm not done. So I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing this because I'm not dead and I'm not done. And the transformation and the freedom that has come from this is astounding. And I'm sure you've all had those moments and have experienced freedom from those things that you were trapped, those habits of thinking, those habits of mind, those ideas that were so rigid that now are gone because of this practice. And it's really important to keep the heart open. And there's a quote from James Baldwin that I love. He said, I am terrified at the moral apathy and the death of the heart which is happening in my country. And he wrote that, 50, 60 years ago. Yeah. It's still true. So to have an open heart is an act of resistance and is powerful. Just as joy is an act of resistance, and it's pride, happy pride, but I love the theme this year is queer joy is resistance. Absolutely. Joy is resistance. It's powerful. To keep that love in our hearts, to keep that joy, that happiness, that compassion, we don't let anyone else, take it from us. Bell Hooks says, the moment we choose love, we begin to move against domination, against oppression. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move towards freedom, to act in ways that liberate ourselves and others. That action is the testimony of love as the practice of freedom. And she also said, to be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. We're willing to be present for everything. Because there's so much, we're alive when we're able to be present. As much as we can in the moment. Let go of any expectations that it's supposed to look a certain way. Just be kind and open as best you can in this moment. I think that's really important. I'd read a book last year which has become like one of my favorite books. It's called See No Stranger by Valerie Kaur, if you know that book. She's a Sikh, S-I-K-H, and she talked about her experience and the teachings, her experience, especially after 9/11, because the men wear turbans and they were really objects of terror, because they were, you'd caused 9/11, and they were shot and killed regularly. And so she talks about going through that, but her teachings are that no one is a stranger. And she says when she sees someone you haven't met, you say, you are a part of me I do not yet know. And I was in downtown LA after that first weekend when ICE showed up and under all the awful things. We had a interfaith prayer vigil downtown LA near City Hall, and she spoke, and she talked about she talks about revolutionary love, and it's the choice to see no stranger and to leave no one outside our circle of care. And she said, you can lift up your rifles and aim them at us, but you cannot make us hate you. You do not have that power. We will choose to see your humanity even when you deny us ours. It's really powerful, I think. And that is really, I think, what's at the heart of an undefended heart. So I think it can be challenging, but I invite you to reflect on, and if this is something that's like, just allow the words to hang out. I mean, that's how you start. You just like, I'm going to put that on the shelf. Like, Post-it notes. You just put it over there, and every once in a while you go, and you go about your business. But just allow it to percolate. That's, and I'm so grateful because it's kind of always in the background for me, and it's kind of how I want to see, okay, if I'm really opening to this, what does that mean in this world? And sometimes, and like I say, some places are wide open, and some places there's still some armor, because I'm not dead. So I'm not done. But I invite you to maybe spend some time investigating, what's appealing, what's scary. I think that's really, really important. So thank you, my friends, for your kind attention. And I hope this has been of some benefit. And I would love to hear any thoughts or questions or comments. I also take rebuttals. I'm very happy. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the talk. I enjoyed it. I'm becoming aware of my armor and not quite even able to treat it much yet, but becoming aware of it would be a step. And you mentioned a book. Is it Deep Diversity?
Mm-hmm.
And who's the author, please?
It's Shakil, Shakil, Chaudhuri, Chadhoury.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you again. I'm sure everyone has the same thought. You mentioned words from the past that are relevant now, surprisingly. In going over old records, I came across the song Blowing in the Wind and was startled by how absolutely appropriate every line in that song is for now. And the other thing you mentioned that I rarely hear in a Buddhist talk was the word activism. And that's something I'm dealing with now. What is appropriate resistance to what's going on in this country and the world? And I've come up with a couple ideas and I'm going to keep working on it. But I just appreciate that you mentioned it because it rarely is mentioned in Buddhist talks.
Thank you. Bhikkhu Bodhi, who I'm a huge fan of, is very, very open and talks about it a lot. And I got to talk to him a couple of years ago, and I mentioned just that. And he goes, he's afraid sometimes to talk about it. And he's like this esteemed monk who's translated all the suttas. But he says, yeah, it's not that common. But I think I personally, it's a personal thing with me, and I think it's important. Thank you. Yeah.
Mary, thank you. Wow, what a deep teaching this is. It feels like radical acceptance, of everything without being a doormat. But as you talked about how these preferences show up and everything, perfectionism, and I can relate. I recently moved back into an apartment I've been out of for 7 years, and I set about making it just to my liking, new flooring and new wallpaper and this, but then getting down to the minutia, like, I mean, just tiny things. There's a slight hairline gap in the flooring. I can see through to the light colored subfloor. I gotta fill it. I don't see it every time I walk over. Just I could go on and on. There's like, but instead of feeling like, oh my God, I'm neurotic, I realize that these things bring me a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. As long as I don't try and like, I can't go out of the house until my list is done, So I kind of now look at it as a hobby. I'm good at it. It brings me satisfaction. I can do a little bit here and there when it calls to me. So there's a difference between being neurotic and delightfully eccentric, I don't know. But it's interesting, like, how do you dance with that? Like, seeing what is, having no preference, and wanting to change something to your liking. It just seems like, your practice that you're talking about is finding that balance so that we're not blaming ourselves and, but also not like letting things roll over us. Like, what do you have to say about finding that balance?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question and one that comes up fairly often, because a lot of times you hear that desire is bad in Buddhism, and that's not true. We all have a desire for happiness. I mean, may you be happy, and for all the things. But it's when it moves over into craving and obsessive, and it doesn't even have to get into stuff, but it's got to be this way, or I can't leave the house, or I can't, it's, and it's like that kind of thing. It's like, I, like the little girls, like, she would like a salami sandwich, there's no salami. Oh, okay. Well, what else is there? There's disappointment. Okay, and I see that, but I'm going to go about my business. So there's an ease there. And so I don't know if there's no one size fits all answer. We all have to do our own dance and reflect on that. I did I wrote a little piece a few months ago about no more rules. And the freedom from that, like, you're supposed to be this and supposed to be that. I don't know why this is coming up to me, but the freedom to just be quirky as you are. Like, I was free. Now, once I got rid of the rules, I realized I was no longer afraid to tell my punk rock friends that I really liked Neil Diamond. There's a lot of freedom in that. Whereas before it's like, whoa, and so it's like quirky, kind of, So finding your own way with it, and then recognizing, watching is like, am I getting into the angsty? Is it getting angsty, or is it just, oh, let it go, you'll figure it out later, kind of thing? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful, refreshing talk. When you first started talking about living with an undefended heart, the way I grew up, that was really, that's a scary thing. And later I thought, doesn't this fall under idiot compassion?
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about boundaries. It's really, don't forget the boundaries, where it's not okay to, walk over me or somebody else, or to do certain things. I wonder about the rules issue. I think inner freedom is paramount, but sometimes people get into fuck the rules, and it impacts other people, and so that's a place of friction for me. Like, if we're going to be a group and get along, we prefer these agreements, right? And so, yeah, but the capacity to just say F it, I think that's useful, but
Yeah.
we can't let sensitivity to other people also.
Absolutely.
It's great, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where I find the Eightfold Path and the precepts. So, going back to that, non-harming. How what is this impact of this? So really important to constantly have that as the North Star, so to speak, and how it, like I said, it's that trapeze, that net, that when I fall off the trapeze going, how do I navigate this? Oh yeah, because it's a way to live what is it Ruth King said, we live in a way that makes it safe for others to be around us.
Yes, yes, yeah. And on that note of kindness, I wanted to also say, I love that you make sure to bring yourself and ourselves into it. I think maybe it has to start there. And the way that your self-talk says, hi, come on, sit down, come over here. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So much easier that way. Cool.
So you brought this to us through a Buddhist lens, which is great, and that's your tradition. Are you ever called upon to speak to like Christians and stuff like that, and sort of like tailor it at all? Is that something that happens for you?
I'm in an interfaith. I'm on the board of this organization, CLUE, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, and we're very busy right now in LA. Because we also work with immigration, and it's an interfaith organization. So I am the Buddhist, and I do talk to people of multiple faiths. Yeah. Yeah, and it can be, you know, you just say this is where this idea comes from, without proselytizing or anything. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any Zoomies? No? Okay.
Anybody online have a question?
Thank you, Mary, very much. It's Jeff here. I was there when I heard at that interfaith thing in LA. Can you remind me the name of her? Name's Angela. Yes, the minister who said you can shoot your gun, point your guns at us, but you can't make us hate you. Can you remind me the name of that?
Her name is Valerie Kaur, Kaur, and her book is See No Stranger.
I really want to get that. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. Mark, were you going?
Yeah, more along the lines of balance and caring for oneself. I can get into such a despairing, sad place around what's happening right now, especially around all of the communities that are being impacted by this climate today. And I don't want to have my head in the sand. I don't want to not know what's going on. But it's this fine balance for me around staying informed and being active and being out on the streets and doing what I need to do, but also caring for myself, because it's breaking my heart. And I don't have that down yet. I know that you said it's a lifelong process, and for me it is a real challenge right
Yeah.
now. So,
Yeah. Don't forget the joy. Cultivate what brings you joy. I drove up here, you'll appreciate this, and listened to baseball games all the way up there.
We'll end now with the dedication of merit. Would you like to lead it? Or should we use ours?
You know, I have one that Ian wrote.
Hey, great.
Ian's taught here, he's one of my
Oh, yeah.
colleagues from down in Palm Springs. And I wanted to read this that he wrote. Going forth into this world so in need of light, may I bring all the kindness and wisdom I embody to each being and each situation that I meet. May the power of my practice today strengthen my resolve to be an agent of peace and justice in this world. Going forth together into this world so in need of light, may we together bring all the kindness and wisdom we embody to each being and each situation that we meet. May the power of our practice today strengthen our resolve to be agents of peace and justice in this world. We dedicate our practice for the liberation of all beings, the great, the small, the wise, the ignorant, the powerful and the powerless. May all beings be liberated from sorrow and loss, hatred and injustice, scarcity and want, and every form of suffering. May our practice today be a prayer for peace, and may it benefit all beings without exception.